possible to beat the defending Super Bowl champions. The Seahawks are the favorites to win the NFC West, but the last 8 Super Bowl champions either failed to make the playoffs or win a playoff game the following season. Despite a decimated defense, 49ers are still projected to make it to the playoffs, while the Cardinals and the Rams pull up the rear. So we are picking NFC West. Skip Bayless, who wins the division?
Stephen A. Smith. The Seattle Seahawks run away with this division. I believe the Seahawks will sweep a division that a month or so ago was considered by far the strongest in the National Football League. And then we know what started happening in San Francisco and the loss of Sam Bradford and St. Louis, on and on. Got it. I think that Seattle is so good, so much better than the rest of its division opponents, that Seattle will go 15-1 this year. And the only loss I have Seattle having on its schedule is the second game of the year at San Diego, which is my surprise team this year. We'll talk about that division and the Broncos in a little bit here. Sure. But I think that there'll be a little letdown after the big opening night tonight on a Thursday night, and then 10 days later, I think the Seahawks will lose at San Diego, and it will become their only loss of the regular season. So, again, San Francisco, we've talked ad nauseum about all the problems and losses on defense, and we've talked ad nauseum about how Colin Kaepernick has not looked like Colin Kaepernick throughout the preseason. The offense has been far more miss than hit. And in Arizona, Carson Palmer, to me, is more cold than hot. Okay. And when he's hot, he's pretty good. But he's statuesque in the pocket. They have a hard time protecting him. And on defense, I still think, despite what Calais Campbell told us yesterday, that the losses of Darnell Dockett and Darrell Washington are pretty big for a team that was the best run-stopping defense in the league last year. I don't think it will be this year. Mentioned no Bradford and St. Louis. I love the rest of the supporting cast around Sam Bradford, but that's going to be a tough one for Sean Hill. So, to me, Seattle running away.
You're right, and there's no intrigue here as far as I'm concerned. I mean, when I look at Arizona, I do love the fact that they acquired Valdir from Oakland, you know, as your left tackle, because that's going to protect Carson Palmer's blind side. He's pretty damn good, and Oakland messed up by losing him, and I think that because he's going to help protect Carson Palmer will have more good days than bad. I don't like the fact that they lost Dockett, obviously, in Washington. Those are devastating blows to me as your linebacker, defensive end as well. I think that's going to be a devastating blow for Arizona. I do love the fact that Peterson, along with Antonio Cromartie back there, with Antonio Cromartie having something to prove, I think when you've got 2 potential lockdown corners that can do what they do, it's not going to, the defense is not going to appear as devastated as we thought they would be. And Honey Badger is back as well. So I think that the defense can make some noise. I will agree with you, however, I still don't trust Carson Palmer. So that's my reason. I look at St. Louis, to me, they're totally irrelevant because they don't have a quarterback. Their defense is legit. They're big time. Their front 4 is big time. Their front 7 is legit. They've got some questions in their secondary, but their defense is still going to be big time. I just believe that if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have an offense. And that's just the way that I look at it. That's why I'm not even considering St. Louis. They'll come in last place. Which brings me to San Francisco. San Francisco, not only did they lose Carlos Rogers, he's in Oakland now, Dante Whitner, he's in Cleveland now, but then you also have a situation with Aldon Smith being suspended, with now McDonald probably being gone, with Navarro Bowman not being back 100% healthy. I don't think that we should count San Francisco out in terms of Seattle going 15-1, sweeping the division. I think that I got to look at their schedule here. When exactly do they play Seattle again? Because it depends on how late in the season they meet. If I'm looking at San Francisco, I'm looking at this schedule here. They've got Seattle in week 13 to November 27th. Again, and then again, December 14th. So for me, San Francisco's winning one of those games. I believe one of those games they'll take them because they should have the crew back in order. Aldon Smith should be back by then. All right, Navarro Bowman should be back by then. And as a result of that, I think San Francisco would get one of those games from Seattle. So Seattle, I think, is more along the lines of 13-3 as opposed to 15-1. But I think the early season struggles that San Francisco inevitably will suffer from is going to cost them the division title. Colin Kaepernick is going to have to carry this load. He's going to have to do something early on. And I don't know if he's going to be capable of doing it early on. Not to mention the fact, remember last year, Harbaugh and those boys saved him a lot. They didn't have him running as much as he did his first year in the starting lineup because they wanted to make sure they saved him and protected him. I think the same happens now. Because of the way that things are in the NFL. And I think as a result of that, San Francisco is going to struggle early. So Seattle's definitely going to run away with the division. But I wouldn't say they're going to sweep the division like nobody's going to beat them. I could see Arizona beating them one game. I could see San Francisco beating them one game.
Okay, so my bottom line about this division, I have no other team making a wild card in this division.
Neither do I.
You don't have the 49ers making the playoffs?
Oh, I'm sorry, I do. I do have the 49ers making the playoffs. I apologize. Yes, I do.
I don't, because I think those other three teams will play rock, paper, scissors with each other and beat each other up enough that the 49ers are going to be in for a long year. And, you know, my favorite stat about this whole prediction show is that since 1990, when the playoffs expanded, every year, at least 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs the year before made the playoffs, except for 2012, when 4 teams that didn't make it the year before made it. Think about that. That's why this is the greatest league in the world. That's why it's so much fun to watch.
Because year to year, you don't know.
The stats are saying that 5 new teams are going to make the playoffs this year. Well, that means that 5 old teams can't make it. So I'm going to say Arizona, which should have made it last year and didn't, and San Francisco, which did make it last year, obviously, and was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, will not make it.
I'm picking San Francisco to be a wild card.
All right, both of the gentlemen say that the Seahawks will win the NFC West. Again, we want to hear your picks. #FTPicks. Coming up next, we're talking about that bad man.